right, so a little bit about us. As I mentioned earlier, I've been working with document management and information management flow in K-12 schools for going on 25 years. I was like 14 when we started. No, I'm just kidding. For those of you trying to mentally do the math, okay, graduated in this, how old is this guy? But at any rate, so we've been doing this for quite a long time, and it's one of the reasons why I asked the question in the beginning. If there's some particular aspect of records management that you're struggling with or that you can't figure out, or I've got documents in here, here, and here, what do we do with them? Chances are I've probably seen it. And I'm happy to offer you either best advice. Also, the other thing that makes us a little unique is that I support K-12 schools all over the country. So we have clients in Washington, we've got clients in Vermont, we've got clients in New Hampshire, all the way to North Carolina. So it's not something that we get a kind of an overview of best practices of what's going on in K-12. Now, for those of you that are looking at us from a solution perspective, I'm going to point out that what we're going to be talking about today is a product called OnBase. It's a very well-known solution outside of K-12, right? This is the same technology stack that's in use by hospitals, by the federal government, by the Department of Defense. Some of the most highly secure, the most highly recognizable industries utilize this same technology stack. We have taken that and developed integrations, solutions, and templates to make it work for K-12. I also mention this because now that we're moving into a hosted environment, the security of your records and the reliability of the hosting service provider is huge. OnBase is $1 billion organization. They got 14,000 customers worldwide. This is not John and Harvest who's hosting your documents, in our basement server room, right? They're very, very secure, and I'm happy to talk a little more detail about that. Also, I realize that, and I should have asked this earlier, is anyone here interested in records that are not just student records? So personnel files, accounts payable transactions, anything along those lines, board documents. Okay. So the same technology stack will generally work anywhere in K-12. We do focus in most cases on finance, student services, and human resources. It's just because that's where the files are. But we do everything from security to facilities management to looking at threat and risk assessment. Like all of these are different areas that we work in and have experience with. But we're generally going to focus on these three, and for the purposes of this presentation, mostly on student services. Also, I'm going to point out that not from just a solution perspective, but the OnBase solution stack is very broad in what it can do. Now, in K-12 education, we generally just focus on those little areas that I've highlighted in red. Again, I bring this up only because one of the biggest challenges I see in K-12 schools is that they don't necessarily not have ways to store documents electronically. I mean, right? You could basically just have, a file on your network share and store records electronically. What they run into is limitations with either access, retention, right? And so what you have is this bifurcated approach. A lot of times, like even when I was talking to a lot of people at the booth, oh yeah, we're storing all our records in Infinite Campus, we're storing our records in PowerSchool, and that's fine as a start. But my next question usually is, and where else are you storing records? Oh, well, we've got some special ed files over here. We've got these documents in this location. I've got some that are in an old online system that we used to have years ago. Some are living in a legacy application. Some are still in filing cabinets, right? And that's fine, I guess, from the standpoint that, okay, at least they're in some systems. But the idea is we would like to have all of that centrally located because of access, security, and compliance. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how do we manage documents? And I'm going to break this down into three different areas, the overall presentation. And the first is going to be document capture. This is the boring part, sorry, but it's really important. The second is going to be document access. And the third, we're going to talk a little bit about some kind of future stuff and other fun things we're seeing in K-12 schools. So the first type of document capture is document capture in bulk. what do I mean by this? Well, so your district is getting records, and this is part of the reason why you have records in a lot of different locations, because they're coming into the district in a lot of different places, or they're being generated by people in the district in their line of business applications, in a special ed solution or something along those lines. So all of these are viable, normal types of content creation. We just want to give you a central place to store all of it. So when we talk about, especially with Synergy and with Infinite Campus and with PowerSchool, these applications are generating a lot of your bulk documents, if I will. You're going to run transcripts, you're going to run report cards, you're going to run reports on a quarterly basis in some cases. So these records, if you're in Infinite Campus, you can go and run your reports. If you're in PowerSchool, you can run your Infinite reports there. If you're in Synergy, you run reports on whatever basis per year it is or time of year. Those documents are going to be generated in mass and then delivered into our solution via a number of different ways. I won't go into all the individual detail there. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this bulk file. We're going to use data inside that file to categorize what it is and to associate it with the correct student, employee, financial transaction, whatever it is. So we will read in this example, let's just say it's a student ID. We see, okay, page 1, 1, 2, 3, page 2, 1, 2, 3, page 3, 1, 2, 3, page 4, 4, 5, 6. Now I can break up that first 3 pages, call it, even if it's a PDF, label it as a PDF, store it with the appropriate student file. So this part of the process is going to, now, why would I do that? Well, the information's in Infinite Campus, the information's in PowerSchool, it's in Synergy. Why wouldn't I just rerun the report? The answer is that this storage mechanism gives you the snapshot in time. Right? If someone were to go back and change a record in the future, when you rerun the report in your student information system, you don't necessarily know exactly what it looked like on January 29th, 2026. Does that make sense? Okay, all right. And again, we're talking specifically about transcripts and other grade reports. Those are part of the student's permanent record. The retention policy in that, I haven't forgot to look at Georgia, but it's generally going to be 50, 75, 100 years. Okay, so any questions about like the bulk document capture, like big stuff? Okay. Also, from a bulk capture perspective, one of the things we mentioned is the assimilation, if you will, of documents from multiple locations. You may have documents that are being stored, as I mentioned, in an online drive or in another application. The same technology that does the breaking and the identification of the records will work for documents that are in an electronic format in another system. The problem is, though, is that generally, how can I say this? Garbage in, garbage out, right? If you're looking at some sort of a SharePoint site and people have had the freedom to label and create whatever folders they want over a serious amount of time, well, that's fine. We can use those labels, but are they accurate? Is it worthwhile to use them? I don't know. We can talk about some other technologies to accomplish that also. All right, so any questions about bulk import? Okay, all right. Talk a little bit about the individual stuff. And this is really where, if I were going to point to an area where records management solutions will fail as a wide implementation, it's because we're not making the capture process and the categorization process easy enough for the users. And again, this gets back to, and this is not a knock against the GSIS providers, it's just not their job, right? Their job is to store student information. But when I've got to go to the multifunction device, and number one, before I even get there, especially if I'm dealing with paper, I've got to sort it. So I'm only scanning one record at a time, one page at a time, because that's going to end up in an email on my inbox, and I've got to hit File, Save As, Browse to the student, find the student, browse to the location. Oh God, what did I name that? Where did I say that to? Click it, upload it, and then by the way, I've got to rename it, especially if you're an Infinite Campus, because you can't have duplicate names of the files. Anyway, it's just a fairly cumbersome process, and so what we want to do is to make that. We want to eliminate the friction in that process. That drives user adoption and makes the overall solution more successful. So the fastest and easiest way is still for us just file save as, right? But you're only going to save it in one location. It's just going to be a shared service, a shared folder on your network, and then we'll run through and grab it from it via the import process. So it's all going into the same location. It doesn't matter if you throw 1,000-page PDF in that location full of all kind of other information, you can separate it out easier. That's the other thing that I'll show you in a minute we do. You don't have to go through the open Adobe, extract pages 2 through 7, save those pages as extraction 1, 2, 3, because dealing with PDF files is a nightmare. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute also. Okay, second thing, let's just say that for some reason, this is kind of a nicely formatted document. It prints well. If you're on a website, sometimes if you go to print, you know what you get like all that garbage. Or if you try to file and save it, you get like an HTML document. That doesn't do me any good. We do give you the ability to print records into the system also. So you just pull up a virtual printer, click print, and then it will start the import process. So anything that you can print, you can automatically store inside of our system. Now keep in mind again, this is the one-off stuff. This isn't like the end of the marking period reports we're running. This is kind of the individual documents that just keep making their way into the school district. I can also just drop and drag documents into the software. It doesn't matter what student I'm on. I just open up this. I can click the import button. Now, there is, though, a difference between the one-off records and scanned documents and the stuff that's being generated by your SIS systems. The biggest difference is that if it's generated out of the SIS system, it's a searchable PDF. And I realize this is probably overly technical but I just want to point it out very quickly because it will make more sense in a minute when we talk about OCR. Searchable PDFs means I can take a cursor, I can highlight information in that field, right? I can search on it, it'll point to it. Well, if I've got a scanned document, in some cases it's just an image file, there's nothing really searchable on that document. So I've got to take a second step and categorize it. So you'll see in the upper left over here, I'm assigning this as I'm telling the software what this is. So it's a student health information, it's an immunization update, and then I've got to tell it what student it's related to. Generally, that's just going to be a student ID. So it's a single one field because we will go back into your student information system and grab the rest of the information. First name, last name, date of birth, campus ID, date of graduation, those type things. All right, so I'm going to type in student ID. Now, once I type in that if you'll notice it filled in all the rest of the data values, and away we go. That document is now categorized, it's associated with the correct student, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. This is not really that applicable, especially to people who have access to multifunction devices and desktop printers. But if you do happen to take a picture of a document and want to scan it, you can use mobile devices as well. Much bigger applicability on the finance side, and we're talking about receipts and things like that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about scanning. And Chanda, I'm very, very glad you're here because if you don't mind, I'll have you tell your story in just a minute. Scanning, wow, okay. You may be wondering why in a document management presentation, it's taken us almost 15 minutes to get to the scanning portion. Here's the reason why. We hate scanning. Really don't like it, don't want to do it. It gives me a document on the back end that is largely not readable. I mean, readable, but not electronically readable without OCR. We'll talk about that in a minute also. But if I can take a document that's already electronic, keep it electronic, give you a better way to capture it and categorize it, that's what we're going to do. I really, really ever don't want to see, if at all possible, printing and then scanning, right? Like it's already electronic. Why are you printing it? Oh, because so-and-so needs a copy in the file folder. Okay. Yeah, I know. And I can see the looks of the room and all the fingers pointing and everything. If anyone's printing emails, you're my audience. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the scanning process. Scanning is going to happen and again, I'm going to talk about the scanning from a one-off perspective right now, and then we'll talk in a second about how we deal with the bulk stuff. Right, the elephant, the paper elephant in the room that is your 50-year-old student record files. So the first thing from a scanning perspective that we do, we give you a nice, easy way to break up that 100-page PDF file or that giant student folder that you just dropped into the multifunction device and hit the scan button. You can you can now work with an electronic document. So great. I recognize that this page down here actually is misordered. It's part of the first document. I just drop and drag it over to the new document, right? So again, if I'm dealing with multi-page PDF, all of this file extraction stuff goes away. I can go through and categorize with delete mode and get rid of all the blank pages that were actually bleed throughs from the first pages that we scanned. So we give you the ability to really clean up and make sure that what's going into the software is is a finished product, so to speak, from a scanning perspective. Now, one more thing also. I don't have, if I'm the scanner, I don't have to be the person that cleans it up. I don't have to be the person that categorizes, right? I can just scan and I can break that apart. Why is that valuable? Well, if you're using central registration and you've got a line of parents that are throwing documents at a registrar, they're just going to scan. A secretary back at the campus building can do the indexing, the categorization, if you wanted to break it up like that. Okay. It's incredibly relevant because this was not possible even a couple of years ago, right? And this is the automatic document storage and classification and identification using AI technology. Now, I use say AI in a K12 schools conference, and but this is something that's been proven. What we're able to do now with a combination of OCR and AI is it's pretty remarkable. And what I mean by that is this: you can try this if you guys have either Copilot, Microsoft, or ChatGPT. Don't throw it in ChatGPT unless you guys have an enterprise license, like it's your data; it's not going out into the web. But you can drop even handwritten notes, handwritten old records, scan them, throw them into either Copilot, like I said, or ChatGPT, as long as you've got a secure license of it, and just say, I need back the student first name, last name, student ID, date of birth, graduation date. Just type in, make that request. What you will get back is remarkable. And I always say that from the standpoint that if this is just kind of, you just want to run a little bit of test, all of a sudden now with AI being able to intelligently read documents, I run into scanning opportunities that were not possible even 2 and 3 years ago. Back when it was all template driven, back when it was all like, hey, for every single document, if it was handwritten, forget it. Now, if it's handwritten, the third copy of the pink copy of a 3-part document and had coffee spilled on it, it's still like I do a good job there. But what I bring this up is because all of a sudden, if I don't have to go through the classification process, and I can take these student records at the end of this year and drop them into intelligent document processing, and it will take that entire bulk scan and break it apart, identify it correctly, and categorize it correctly. Well, all of a sudden, I don't have as big of a scanning problem as I thought. Now, that's great, John. Why didn't you bring this up in the beginning? We've been talking about all this for this long. Even though the functionality and the technology has improved dramatically, it's still expensive, especially at super high volume. And so if I can show you a way to do a single click, type in one field indexing, and I can accomplish most of my categorization indexing just with having the individual users, right? This is a cultural change, make those changes. Well, that's a plus, that's a win. But if I do have this bulk, this massive amount of documents every month that I just, or a year that I just want to feed through a scanner and have it categorize them, I can do that now reliably without being an IT expert, without having set up templates and a bunch of logic and algorithms for how to identify and classify information. So it's very exciting. We are super. The direction of what we've been able to do with this is it's really earth shattering from our perspective. Um, who said that they weren't sure they had reliable documents, or their scanning provider, they weren't really sure if the scanning provider got everything correctly or labeled them correctly? This opens the door for us to take all documents that have already been scanned and indexed and just run them back through and double check. Right now, again, there's dollars associated with it, but as the price falls, I think that's going to be very exciting. All right, I'm going to go through this next section very quickly. Again, I just want to reach out, talk about document access. How do you get access to documents? The easiest way to get access to documents is an Infinite Campus Synergy or PowerSchool. Just to go into the individual screen in PowerSchool, you can click a button, K12 documents, and it's going to retrieve only the documents that you have access to that are located in our system. Right, and related to that student. Same thing in Infinite Campus. I'm on a student screen. I can click a link. We can put customizable links in Infinite Campus, and then once again, bam! I'm retrieving a list of documents related to that student that only I have access to. This is how you can serve up the records that are housed in multiple different locations through the individual application where they were created. I've got special ed documents in a special ed system. Great. We just image enable the special education system, and now I can retrieve the documents. This is how you can have that single repository, yet provide access through multiple different points so people don't lose functionality. Does that make sense? Okay. Also, if I've got another group of users, if I've never seen our software before, I could probably figure out how to use this form. Like, that is as stupid easy as it is. I can just go through, I can type in the information I'm looking for, click search, and here's the list of documents, again, that I have access to. So a couple of other things from a record document management perspective. If you like your documents organized in a folder view, this helps us overcome some of the cultural challenges with people not having access to paper. Right? I can take, great, what's your filing cabinet? How is it organized now? We'll recreate that and give you a list of all of your individual students, or we can organize it by campus. And guess what? I don't have to go through and create these folders, at the beginning. This is all built on the fly when documents enter the system. We can also do things like highlight information. I can go through and view the history. This is everything that's happened in this document once it entered into the system. This is, again, one of the reasons why I mentioned earlier access, security, and compliance. This is how you know that the documents that are stored in the system, who's had access to them and what level of access they had and what they did with that access. Okay, I can do some more searches. Again, I'm going to kind of go through this fairly quickly because I want to talk a little bit about compliance and retention with K12 schools. Yeah, it's nice to know what documents you have. It's better to know which documents you don't have. Right. So to be able to run through a list of all, this is a student record file. This is the documents I'm requesting to have. I want to go through and find out what I'm missing. Right. So running a compliance report. And then finally, we talked a little bit about the retention policies, the fact that different documents have different retention policies. By the way, Chanda's binder is available on Amazon, $19.95. Yeah. But at any rate, every document that goes into the system is managed with its own individual retention policy by the document class, just like the Georgia State Archives will require you to do. Retention policies are always set by event plus time. Date student turns 18 plus 3 years. Date of graduation plus 10 years. Date of creation plus eternity. Right? So that's the way you can organize the retention policies. And by the way, sometimes they change. The nice thing about having it in a central location, you're going to update the date in one location or update the time frame in one location, and we will go through and we will reclassify all of the records that are in the system. And if you get to the end of a destruction, into the retention policy, we'll automatically create a certificate of destruction, when the document made it through, who authorized the destruction, on what date, and why it was deemed ready for destruction. So from an audit perspective, you're in very, very good shape there. Okay. The last thing that we do also, and again, I'm gonna fly through this because again, it's a some districts already have this nailed down, some don't. But how do you deal with records requests? Student transfers to another district, they request the records. What do? Right, we do have a way, or again, the transcript request. Student calls up. I promise you, there's no licking stamps or envelopes involved in our transfer fulfillment process. So they can go through and fill out an online form. We can submit proof of ID, and then using workflow in the back end, your employees can go through and fill those record requests, giving the requested documents to that location. They get a secure link to click on. Emailing PII information is generally frowned upon. I realize districts do it all the time. And if you're not doing it, you're getting them from parents and stuff all the time. So, but just know that secure download, secure link is a little bit of a better way to manage that information. Okay. Let's see. That. All right. We're going to blow through that. Any questions? Here's my contact information. I will send out I'll send out and follow up with a recording of the session. If you do have questions, please reach out to me. We're headquartered in Alpharetta, so just a couple hours from here, and I'm happy to sit down with any of you guys. Hey, bring me the challenges. This is what we're seeing. What do you recommend? Well, I can't tell you exactly how to do it, but I can tell you how it's been successful in other districts.